what a democracy is. I don't want the police steaming in there with tasers because somebody says something that someone else disagrees with. That would be crazy. But that doesn't mean to say that the protest doesn't come with some caveats, regardless of what that protest is. And there is, of course, a balancing act about how much do you disrupt? And if you disrupt other people, there's got to be a point, I suppose, that if you want your voice, your overarching ideas to be heard, then you're going to want to articulate or demonstrate that in some kind of fashion that will grab the attention. And I guess gluing your genitalia to the M25 is one of them. Or maybe just your hands. Nikki says, the right to protest has always been balanced with the right for the rest of life to continue. I get it. If you're a protester, you're meant to cause disruption. But there has to be a line drawn without disruption when disruption tips over into chaos. And it's that last point that cannot be tolerated. Delia says, I think these protesters are accidental geniuses. Clearly, much of what they say is either exaggerated and in some cases made up. But we all want to live on a cleaner planet. So much like any negotiations, if their protest has 25% effect in getting what they want, it has to be a good thing. How should the police then deal with this? How should the police get involved? 0344 499 1000. Extinction Rebellion is hoping to see 30,000 protesters in the capital, bringing it to a standstill by leading a 4-day protest outside the aforementioned Houses of Parliament. The group has claimed that thousands have registered for the protest, which will see eco-zealots from more than 200 organisations descend on the capital from Friday to Monday to rally against the climate crisis. A spokeswoman for the group said activists will remain very disruptive, but that this weekend's protest is not the same as intentional disruption in the way we've seen from Extinction Rebellion in the past. ER said the organisations are demanding an end to all licences, funding and approval for new fossil fuel projects and the immediate creation of emergency citizen assemblies. If Rishi Sunak's government does not agree to enter talks by 5 p.m. on Monday, Extinction Rebellion has warned they will ramp up their campaign. So how should the police deal with this? Laura Baldwin is spokesperson for Extinction Rebellion. Afternoon to you, Laura.
Good afternoon, Ian.
Nice to have you with us. Have you made your placard yet?
I have. It is behind me. I've had this one, unfortunately, for 4 years now.
4 years and it's not been trampled or torn? That's incredible. That's a placard record right there. Listen, glad to have you with us. 5 p.m. on Monday. That's a deadline and a half, isn't it? How are they going to meet that? There's some fairly crucial international imperatives at stake here for the government to suddenly stop doing anything that's oil-based.
Well, they need to stop everything that's oil-based and as quickly as possible to secure a livable future. That's what the United Nations have said very, very clearly. They've said that, they've been having meetings for up to 30 years now and failing to come to a solution on the climate crisis. This government's action on the climate crisis, on the cost of living crisis, on these crises that are all merging together have just utterly failed, and all the people know about this. The distrust in our government has never been greater than it is in this moment. And so the plan for Monday is for all the people that are there, all these different groups, 200 organisations coming together, including the PCS union, such a big, diverse range of movements coming together to discuss how should our government move forward with this. What our movement is asking for is for citizens' assemblies to decide our way out of this. Politicians are paralysed by their need for popularity, by the lobbying of corporate elites, and they've failed time and time again to do what's necessary to safeguard the living conditions of this planet.
But we have a democracy. We have assemblies of citizens. It's called Parliament. It's called local councils. It's called parish councils. These people already exist.
They are sadly not representative of the democratic. Largely they are of the ruling class, the elites. And when you don't have...
What does that mean? What does that mean, the elites? That sounds more like a kind of an anti-capitalist thing really going on here, which is what some people suspect you guys are all about.
Look, well, we're not. And what we are calling for is for all voices, a cross-section of the demographic, to be represented so that everybody's needs are met in making the necessary changes to
This does sound, and I merely put this to you, Laura, I'm not stating it as a fact, but again, there is a sort of an anti-capitalist vibe. It sounds like very much a sort of Marxist ideology. We want the people running the place. It sounds like something going back to a different kind of time, a different kind of era. We're uninventing things that have given us social mobility and freedoms and luxuries, and it feels like very much a retrograde step to many people.
No, that's the way the media tried to portray it. I think we need to look at it as visionary. We need to bring all our great minds together. We need to be creative. We need to work together collaboratively to find our way forward through this. The changes we need to make shouldn't be feared. They should be longed for, dreamed of, and demanded. And that's what we're all gathering for to demand in London over the next 4 days, from Friday through till Monday. We're going to have this absolutely incredible gathering, this collaboration of all these different groups. On Friday, we've got pickets outside all the different governments.
They're all the same group, though, really, aren't they? I mean, it's the same.
No,
it's the same Extinction Rebellion, Just Stop Oil. You're pretty much the same people. You just change your hat and your placard.
Just to give you, I mean, there are people that are in all the different groups, but to give you some great examples of what to expect over the weekend, we've got over 100 medics that will be in their scrubs, being human libraries. So come along and speak to medics and ask them directly about how the health crisis and the cost of living crisis and the climate crisis all affect them and how we should move forward through this. We'll have all the scientists there in their lab coats, so they're clearly marked out. The people can come and speak directly to the scientists and hear those scientific warnings directly from them, and why it is so important that we must cut our emissions to zero, not even net zero. We need to get to zero emissions as quickly as possible to safeguard the living conditions of this planet.
Why?
We have a choice right now. We either choose to change decisively or destructively, and we can either make this torturous or we can make it the best chapter of humanity yet. And that's what Extinction Rebellion is really pushing for, is to make this a really beautiful, amazing, collaborative, fair and just transition for everybody.
What if I told you there's no need to panic, Laura? What if I told you that you're slightly misinformed on some of this and everything's actually going to be all right? We want a cleaner planet. Who doesn't? Everybody wants that. Yeah. But the Armageddon, the doomsday cult scenario, the kind of grief porn that you guys are involved with, you don't need to go there. Because here's the thing, and I do think this is important. There's over 200 countries in this world. There's many more principalities and governing bodies. Not a single one of them across planet Earth agrees with you.
No, that's not true. I'm sorry, I have to get right in there.
Which is the country that is implementing what you're looking for?
Okay, the IPCC summary for policymakers is agreed by 195 countries. Every government agrees on that summary for policymakers. And in that, it agrees universally that we must get to net zero emissions by 2050. Antonio Guterres pulling that forward to 2040 in this latest synthesis report that came out.
How many of them, of the 195, are going to be doing what you want by 5 o'clock on Monday?
No, we're just targeting our one government, obviously. But let me finish.
One assumes it's an international thing, right?
This is going to be one of those comedy moments where you've got the bloopers. Hold on 1 second. I just got to keep him quiet. So I have been...
Canine rebellion, that's what's happening.
I have been really fortunate, Ian, this is so important. I've been so fortunate to be able to speak directly to leading scientists across the country. I'm an Olympic sailor and I run a group that helps to educate and inspire sports people to speak and act for climate and nature. And recently I've spoken to some of the leading scientists, and they've said categorically we have to get to zero emissions by 2030 to have a reasonable chance of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees. And that is the critical threshold beyond which we will trigger irreversible tipping points. This is our children's future. The UN Water Conference said that by 2030, we'll face a 40% deficit in fresh water.
But why? Answer me this, though, Laura. This is
my last one. I'm saying that if we continue as we are, then by 2070, up to 3 billion people will be living in uninhabitable zones. Like, look at the response to just a few million refugees trying to find somewhere safe to live. Now imagine billions of them.
Okay, so people like Rishi Sunak, people like Emmanuel Macron, Chancellor Scholz and others are willing to put their names to this projection of death. They're happy to be the person that created that. Because that's what you're essentially saying.
195 governments.
109. Well, whatever they've agreed to, they're not doing what you're asking for by 5 o'clock.
Not.
They're not implementing all of this. So the fact that they're not might lead you to believe that maybe you're slightly dramatising this, or you're perhaps, and I say this kindly, maybe slightly deluded, do you think, Laura? Is that a fair point?
No, not deluded.
Why are they not doing it? This is the death of the planet. They closed the planet for 2 years because of a pandemic, and yet they can't react to inevitable death and demise?
Yeah, why are they not doing it? Because the fossil fuel lobby is so...
No, it's not. It can't be. They can't be. There's got to be one government that would say, no, hang on a second. This is about death. 3 billion people, insect life, wildlife, countries underwater. This is the sort of language you guys impart, and that's fair enough. But you might think one of those governments would say, OK, in which case we'll do something about it now, not next week. All the things that create it, the big cars, the 4x4, they're all on sale still. And Rishi Sunak and all the other leaders I mentioned are quite happy to have their name on the tin as the person responsible. They're relaxed about that.
And I really don't think they should be, because, they will...
But it leads us to wonder whether it's really going to happen, because not every scientist is on completely the same page.
Ian, you have this platform, this really powerful platform as a presenter, reaching millions of people, and you should use that power for good. You know that this is real, and you know that we have to act on it, and you know that our government are failing to act on it, and you could use your platform to tell your listeners.
That's why you're here. That's why we've invited you on. That's why I don't want to have an obvious kind of row with you, but I do want to question why no one is adopting what you're asking for.
That is because they are lobbied and controlled, and
but this is about the end of the planet, so that would be surely even by the most right-wing capitalist position, that would be a nonsense, because there would be no money to be made because the planet would have ended.
Precisely, but will that, you have to ask them that question. Why are they not acting? The scientists are using words as strong as our vocabulary permits to warn us about this crisis. We can see with our own eyes that it is real, that it's playing out in real time. A third of Pakistan underwater last year. And now it used to be that if you were rich, you could run away to New Zealand.
Well, there was some floods. That isn't the case now.
Yeah, in New Zealand. And that 2-year-old child washed off her mother's shoulders to her death in a flood.
We have fewer deaths because of inclemency in weather and meteorological conditions than ever before. You know that, surely.
Have you, every week, there are horrific and heartbreaking climate impacts happening everywhere across the globe. Nowhere is safe.
There always has been, Laura.
Now, why are we still discussing if this is actually happening?
I'm not talking about it not happening. I'm talking about whether it's the end of the planet. Nobody disputes climate change. Everyone I know wants a cleaner planet. I don't know anyone who says, yeah, I'd like a dirtier planet. We all want more efficiency. We want everything to rub along in the most efficient and considerate manner. But that doesn't mean to say that everybody concurs with the kind of doomsday projection, the kind of grief porn addiction that some people seem to have over this, and that is that the planet Earth is going to end. And nobody in government agrees with you.
Well,
one of them would.
They have all signed that they understand that that is what we face and that they must get their emissions to zero. And they've all agreed that, and that is not in dispute anymore. So all the listeners listening, if you have questions and you're not sure if Ian's right or if I'm right, come down to the big one, Friday through Monday. There are scientists, there are medics, there are professionals, there are experts with all the ideas of solutions, academics. It's going to be a brilliant, vibrant, colourful, enjoyable, family-friendly, very accessible, opening, welcoming space.
Sounds like Glastonbury to me, Laura.
To come down and to find out more and to get behind this and to see how powerful actually citizens' assemblies can be.
I am more than happy to give you a platform for you to say that. I'd like to know what's going to happen. What's going to happen at 5 o'clock on Monday, though?
Come and join us, Ian, and find out.
What are you going to do? Are you going to ramp it up? You're going to start the gluing thing again? Is it the M25? What's going to happen? The coronation? What are you guys up to?
So we're going to
give us a sneak preview, Laura. What's the word on the Enviro Street?
Sneak preview is if you come down on Monday and join in with the people's assemblies and be part of the deliberative process to work out what is next.
You haven't got a plan, really, have you? There is no 5 p.m. deadline.
There's absolutely a 5 p.m. deadline, Ian, and I'm going to keep you wondering so that you want to find out more over these few days and keep inviting us back.
You're an Olympic sportswoman. What happens to those Olympics when you can't fly to the next event?
Well, we face a choice, don't we? We continue as we are for a decade, maybe two, and we present our children with a future that the only competition they have is over food and water and meeting their basic needs. Or we pause pollution right now and we await solutions and just focus on doing what is necessary to decarbonize our communities, to restore nature, to rebalance the economy, to help everybody to live a good, decent level of life. And that is very possible, and it should be happening. And our government have big answers, big questions to answer, and we really looking forward to all the collaboration that's going to happen over these 4 days outside Parliament that won't disrupt the marathon. So don't worry, it is pre-liaison.
Wow, you say that, come on, there's going to be some disruption.
The marathon and the big one organisers have been communicating since November. There's been liaising with the police. It's all going to be a safe and accessible space, so very welcoming.
All right, Laura, thank you for your time. More than happy to have this discussion, and we will have it again, I'm sure. Laura Baldwin is spokesperson for Extinction Rebellion. Good luck with your placards, Laura, on Monday.